Reigns became the top name in WWE for 4 years straight. If someone tried to say that Roman Reigns was in the conversation for best professional wrestling characters, say 10 or even 6 years ago, they would most likely be laughed out of the building. Now though, with this run as the Universal Champion and Tribal Chief, it is almost nuts to try and argue that Reigns isn't in that conversation. It still might be a controversial pick now, but honestly, nobody has been able to make wrestling this talked about in recent years. Whatever happens to Reigns after WrestleMania 40, this man no doubt deserves his flowers. Horror and professional wrestling go together weirdly, as you'll see throughout this article. Kane was almost a perfect character in his early days. As time went on with the Big Red Machine, things did start to age poorly, with the removal of his mask and people finding out more about the man behind the character. Regardless, it would be tough to say that Kane was not one of the better creations that the WWE has had. His debut still stands as one of the greatest in the companist Big Red Machine. Kane was one of the scariest wrestlers. The icon, Sting, the face of without Sting, WCW, probably would have been dead long before 2001. Whether it is the early Surfer Sting or the Crow versions, Sting was always one of the most popular characters on television. His rivalry against the New World Order was the absolute highlight of that company. Looking at his career in other promotions such as TNA and EU, it is apparent that Sting seemingly can do no wrong and has guaranteed himself a spot as one of the greatest of all time. The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, became Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. WrestleMania, the Heartbreak Kid, the showstopper, whatever nickname you can think of for Shawn Michaels, the man has earned them all. His performances throughout the mid-90s helped the WWE stay afloat at a time when they were doing god-awful work. His return in the early 2000s was spectacular for a man who should have had years of ring rust on him. Looking at Michaels as a character, his work with D-Generation X, Diesel, and his later career showcases that he could control an audience with little to no effort. Macho Man Randy Savage has become recognizable outside of wrestling. There are very few names that fans outside of wrestling can immediately think of when talking about the WWE or wrestling in general. One of those is Randy Savage. It is a testament to that ability that brands like Slim Jim made him the face of their marketing because of his over-the-top charisma, outfits, and voice. In the world of wrestling, Savage could become the most hated villain, fighting names like Ricky Steamboat, Hulk Hogan, and George Steele, while easily transitioning to the next face of the company behind Hogan.Stone Cold, Steve Austin. The Rattlesnake was the face of the Attitude Era. While other names mentioned helped the WWE at a time when the company was having a problem staying relevant, that can't be said for Steve Austin. This man became the biggest act in the company at a time when it was at its hottest, with names like The Rock, Triple H, and Mick Foley helping create amazing stories and weekly television. It can't be argued that if Austin never came to the WWE and became Stone Cold, wrestling might not be what it is today. The Great One, The Rock, had a way on the mic that others didn't, and who better to move on to besides Austin's greatest rival, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. The Rock did something that was far unprecedented and became not only a major player in the WWE, but one of the biggest celebrities in Hollywood. Anytime he returns, it does massive numbers, as shown by his recent return for WrestleMania 40. The Rock had audiences at the edge of their seat just by him speaking random nonsense into a microphone. Nature Boy Ric Flair, the dirtiest player in the game, was a fantastic heel while Sting was the face of WCW. What good is a face without a bad guy to go against them? That was Ric Flair. Anything he said or did could make him the most hated man in the company, and he did that like no other. His antics on the mic and in the ring earned him the title of the dirtiest player in the game. Flair did all of this amazing character work while also being considered one of the greatest from an in-ring perspective. The Hulkster, Hulk Hogan. Non-wrestling fans know Hulk Hogan. Randy Savage most likely takes second place when talking about wrestlers that non-wrestling fans know. Number 1 is Hulk Hogan, without a doubt. People who never watched wrestling have probably heard of Hulk Hogan for one reason or another. His popularity was through the roof and saw him become the face of restaurants, the lead actor in films, and so much more. There were not many celebrities as huge as Hogan during his prime. Deadman, The Undertaker, the man behind the legendary WrestleMania streak. With all that being said about these legends, there is no bigger character in the WWE than The Undertaker. For decades this man sweat and bled the WWE and was always around whenever the company called on him. His WrestleMania streak became such a coveted thing that it was almost as big, if not bigger, than the world title at points. While there have been horror-themed characters in professional wrestling long before The Undertaker, and there will be long after, No one has been able to reach the same level as the Deadman.The man behind the legendary WrestleMania St.